Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert. And man, we got some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yes, that's right. We have some breaking news. News big enough that warrants an emergency brace for impact. Lots of people have already DM'd me, said, Mike, we need a brace for impact. We need a brace for impact. So here we go. We got one live for that ass. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in right now. Please hit the like button, comment on the video, and make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, so what's the big news? Well, WWE and TNA Wrestling announced a multi-year partnership. They gave the story to that dipshit Mike Coppinger from ESPN, so kudos to him. Much respect to him, even though I just called him a dipshit. Anyway, um, WWE, part of TKO Group Holdings, and TNA Wrestling, one of the world's top wrestling brands of Anthem Sports and Entertainment, announced a multi-year partnership aimed at creating unprecedented crossover opportunities within WWE and TNA programming for NXT and TNA wrestling stars. The agreement will enable talent to garner additional exposure across key WWE and TNA programming, including weekly flagship shows such as NXT, which airs live on CW, and TNA Impact, select WWE premium live events, and TNA pay-per-views. In turn, bolstering their in-ring development with exposure to world-class talent and coaching. So, the historic relationship demonstrates the collaboration and competition do not have to be mutually exclusive. Ariel Schnerer, Senior Vice President of Content and Distribution for TNA Wrestling. So, Ariel is the new Scott D'Amore. So, if you're wondering who replaced Scott, it wasn't the new Anthem president, Anthony Chon or Carlos Silva. It was Ariel. Um, he goes on to say, oh, shit, I lost my spot. So anyway, Shawn Michaels goes on to say, we look forward to growing and evolving our partnership with TNA and its outstanding group of athletes by creating new opportunities to further the development of our talent and to elevate the viewer experience at home, said Shawn Michaels. So it is now official. It is on paper. They made a joint announcement. They have signed an agreement between the two companies that TNA and WWE have now entered into a formal agreement. So what does that mean? Well, they've already been working together since last year. So all this does is actually put it on paper. That's really the extent of it. Um, I I want to go into this being cautiously optimistic because I think that the deal that they had so far has really worked out for both sides. Um, they have NXT has been able to send talent over to TNA to get additional reps. You're not really getting a lot of exposure on TNA, but they're getting additional reps, and I think that's more important for them. In turn, NXT has been able to bring over Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace and the Rascals and like oddly enough Hammerstone like one time. So they brought over Hammerstone one time, and that created a little bit of buzz for their television show. And so they were able to bring over the biggest TNA stars, and then they sent some of their lower level stars to TNA to get some additional reps. And I would say that it's worked out for both sides. This has been a really good partnership for both sides. It's been an extremely good partnership for TNA because the turn in momentum for their company really started back in June once this thing got rolling. And so for them to formalize it and to do it a couple of days before Genesis, I think is actually really good for Genesis. They're probably already sitting about 2,000 tickets. I think that this will get more people to do a walk up at Dallas on Sunday night for their pay-per-view, and I think it'll add some additional pay-per-view buys there in the end. I get the feeling that this is going to be one of the more successful shows. Not going to fucking come close to last year's Hard to Kill. It ain't coming close. But I think it'll be more in line with what Slammiversary and Bound for Glory did, which were two pretty successful shows. Um, I know that a lot of the haters out there are going to dump all over this. And look, we got to be honest about the history of WWE. In the past, these partnerships have not worked out for the lesser of the two partners, right? But what I can say is so far so good. Um, Now, if this just ends up with WWE taking all of their talent, and then at the end of the partnership, TNA is left with nothing, it's like, okay, well, we should have saw that one coming. But as of right now, things seem to be working out. And I know somebody's going to say, well, they're taking Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace, like, think of it similar to the situation that's been going on with AEW and New Japan. Okay, AEW has taken like most of the top 10 stars of New Japan since like 2019, right? If you think about it, who has been on top in New Japan since 2019? A lot of those guys are in AEW right now. Okay, because once their contracts come due and they've been working in AEW, they see they see the big money there, the beautiful catering, and and the schedule and all of that, and they would be fools not to explore that option, right? When you're the lesser of the two companies, when your big stars get their contracts coming due, they're going to want to go to the bigger company because they see the earning potential over there versus where you're at. That happened in New Japan. That's going to happen with TNA. TNA is going to lose these people no matter what. Okay. Is TNA going to become just a pipeline for WWE? That's already what it was. It was like a pipeline for WWE and AEW. Take a look at both companies, and count all the stars from TNA. There's a lot, right? And so that stuff's just going to happen. It's and it's inevitable when you're a small company and you get people over. They're gonna want to leave. They're gonna want to go make more money. So I don't really see that being a negative. I think that's going to happen. Whether or not they're partners, that's going to happen. We saw it happen with New Japan. They were losing talent to AEW before they became partners with AEW. Since the partnership has happened, they've continued to lose stars, and they're going to continue to lose stars. That's just the way that it goes. Okay, so let's set that aside. What could be the positives going forward? My cousin, who is a shithead, Joe Gilbert, whom I love, but he's a piece of shit. I still love him though. He said that he made a good point, which I don't want to give him credit for making good points because he rarely ever has a good point, but he actually had a good point in our text exchange earlier. And guys in the chat, I see you there. I will get to you in a minute. I'm just gonna make Joe's point, and then I'm gonna get to the chat, and I want to see what the chat has to say about this historic partnership. Um, Joe did make a good point though, unfortunately, that WWE could be very helpful for TNA in getting those international media rights deals. The Sony 10 deal in India, TNT Sports in the UK. All those deals around the world that WWE gave up on to be exclusive to Netflix, they could now prop up TNA to go get those deals, and I think that's a real possibility. And in fact, if someone told me that WWE helped them get that Sportsnet 360 deal, I would say that kind of makes sense. Like they would want to prop up their partner to get that deal versus their enemy, which is AEW, right? Their main competitor, their hated enemy, whom they would love to just drive out of business. So that makes a ton of sense. So it would not shock me this summer to see TNA getting a bunch of new media rights deals all over the world. Could this lead to a new media rights deal in the U.S.? Well, in the announcement, they didn't talk about it in the beginning of the announcement. By the end of it, they said that you can watch TNA on Access TV. So it tells me something's not imminent, right? They would have left Access TV off of there if there was an imminent TV deal. But could this lead to a U.S. deal? I think it could. I think by having this agreement on paper and with this announcement and the announcement being released by ESPN, I think now TNA just became more valuable to television networks because just saying that you're partners with WWE and WWE giving them the green light, like, yeah, we're going to be sending talent there and we're going to work with these guys and we're going to help promote these guys. I think that would get networks excited, and they'd be like, yeah, I think we want to do business with these folks. And the truth of the matter is, TNA's budget's like really small. They don't need a whole lot of money for a media rights deal, but you're still going to get premium content, right? So they can go in there, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. They can actually go in there. So say like, I know AEW and Fox, for example, were recently negotiating. It turns out that deal is, I don't know if it's off the table, but it seems like that's not imminent, right? Something happened there, and like AEW Shockwave appears to be off the table. But let's say you're TNA. Now that you have this partnership, this agreement with WWE, you can go in there and say, hey, you were negotiating with AEW, and I'm just going to throw a number out there. AEW wanted $50 million a year. I'm just making that number up, but say AEW wants $50 million a year, and they're going to give you their C-level show, which their C-level show is still going to be pretty valuable. But they wanted $50 million a year. Well, you're TNA Impact, and you go to Fox for an FS1 show, not Fox Network, but say FS1, more realistic, right? So AEW wanted $50 million a year. Well, we'll come in there, and we'll take $15 million a year. We'll take $15 million a year, and we'll give you probably about 70 to 75% of the viewership that you were likely to get with AEW. And if you're looking at, and if you're Fox and you're wanting wrestling, you're FS1 and you're wanting wrestling, you want reliable 52-week a year programming. You're going to look at that as like, I can go with AEW at $50 million a year. I can get 300,000 viewers, or I can go with TNA and I can get, say, whatever, 225,000 viewers, but for significantly less money. You're going to look at TNA as a viable option, right? Especially now, it's like, hey, and now they're going to have WWE talent on their show occasionally, and they're working with WWE. They're going to be propped up by WWE. I think that becomes more realistic. Does CW now, is that in play now? They were in negotiations before, so I think this kind of opens up that U.S. distribution for them. I was pretty bullish beforehand, before 2025, that I did not think that TNA was going to get a TV deal. But when I did my year-end show, one of my predictions is that TNA will be on a bigger U.S. distribution channel, a bigger network in 2025. I'm now that this partnership just made me think that even more. I'm more bullish on that happening now. Okay, my last point before I get to the chat, because I do want to get to the chat. A couple days ago, and some of you assholes laughed at me. You know who you are. I said that I had this theory. February, there's no TNA Plus special on the books. There just isn't one. There's been no announcement. There's no date booked. The date that it would have been booked would have been Valentine's Day, February 14th or February 15th. There isn't one on the schedule. There's not one projected to be on the schedule. Sean Ross Sapp reported that TNA is coming to Orlando February 20th and 21st. I then reported that the February 20th show will be a live episode of Impact. And that has been confirmed. Sean Ross Sapp just confirmed that. So that news is out there. February 15th is NXT Vengeance Day. My theory is that TNA would be playing a big part of NXT Vengeance Day. I think that theory now holds up. That becomes a stronger theory. In fact, it could be a joint show. Where like that's just the TNA Plus special for the month is just them, kind of like that's their kickoff event for this new partnership, this formalized partnership, NXT Vengeance Day. NXT's all over the advertisements for Genesis, by the way. I think NXT is going to play a big part of that. So, all right, but yeah, this is crazy news. This is exciting news. Little bit scary, but we'll see how it goes. Let's get to the chat here. If you guys got questions, fire them away. If you got comments, fire them away. If you guys just want to give me money, you can super chat. Like, I'm gonna answer your comment anyway. But if you just want to give me money, that'd be great. All right. Otherwise, go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. I would greatly appreciate it. All right. Nicola says, this is great for both TNA and WWE. I think WWE is going to be solid regardless. I think this is a big deal for TNA. Absolutely. Tactical playmaker, Mr. Nonzo himself. There's a huge chance that HBK pops up on TNA Genesis. I kind of expect it. I think we'll see NXT stars on Genesis, including HBK. I think we see Joe Hendry win the TNA World Title, and I think we see Joe Hendry pop up on Raw the next night in Dallas. Absolutely. Impact 88. We'll probably see Joe Hendry in the Royal Rumble this year. I think we've been theorizing that one for a while. Yeah, I think that's been a good possibility. All right. Will there be a Brace for Impact meetup before Slammiversary or one in the UBS Arena? Yeah, you know what? I will, once I get my tickets, I have not gotten them yet, I will let everybody know which section I'm in, and we can meet up and do a big picture for everybody, the Brace for Impact Nation. Hell yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to meet a lot of you guys. Absolutely. Impact 88 would like to see TNA get on the CAW network. I am with you there. Phenomenal Ace. As long as we get TNA pack in WWE games, we're good to go. Yeah, I think a downloadable characters for TNA makes a lot of sense. This is actually for professional wrestling, good for professional wrestling. Antonio, Bang Bang Niner Gang. I still think TNA could be on Prime because streaming is what's going to stay professional wrestling and not network TV. So a lot of people have been trying to say that TNA could go to Amazon Prime. Those are just, Antonio, and I know Official Little Silver has put that in my comments a lot of times. Look, I don't doubt that could happen. I could absolutely see that. But what night do they move nights? Do they move on Wednesday and go head to head with AEW? Because Amazon Prime has Thursday Night Football already, and that's what their focus is at. And I'll be honest, Amazon Prime already has MMA and boxing, and they're not paying out a ton of good big money for that. So, and they don't really do good numbers with their boxing and MMA. So I don't know. Let's see. Yes, Lil Silva. TNA needs to be on Prime Video. Tactical Playmate. Poor Joe. Mike, you ain't got to do the homie like this. He's my shithead little cousin. I'm 41 years old and he just turned 30. I can treat him poorly if I want to. I've been treating him poorly since he was a baby. All right. Love Dogs. I would like to see Mike Santana versus Obi. Hell yeah, Obi. I am an Obi feminist. Absolutely. Let's see. Oh, Daniel Mills. Cucked TNA is finished. Brother, I think they're about to have the biggest business year that they've ever had in the history of their company. But are they cucks? I guess we'll see how the booking goes. So far, every NXT performer that's ever come over to TNA has lost. They don't come over and just beat TNA stars and then go back. This is not what's happening. So, but you could be right. They could end up getting cucked in this whole deal. Look, I've been paying attention to WWE my whole life, and they have absolutely destroyed other companies on purpose, including companies that thought that they were friends. And people are gonna say, "Well, Bad Man gone." Bad Man gone. Bad Man still has tentacles in the company, and there's still people that are there that think just like him. So, yeah, look, that's why I say cautiously optimistic, right? Let's see. I'm gonna go through. I just want to get to most of these comments before I head out. Let's see. Antonio, they're gonna get a US TV deal. They're just waiting to announce it, and probably gonna be the spring or fall when they when on that app. And let's see. Love Dogs. This will help the NXT men's division. Well, the women's division needs the most help. Phenomenal Ace. I think the biggest thing they can do for the partnership is if they allow AJ Styles to have one final run for a year in TNA. It's not like they've been using AJ Styles a lot since his feud with Cody. I think AJ Styles making an appearance or even having a match or a couple of matches in TNA just became a lot more realistic. But we got to go back to the press release. They have focused it between TNA and NXT. They didn't really say anything about main roster stars crossing over. So let's see, Gerald. Do you think we'll see main roster wrestlers in TNA? I think it's a possibility, yes. But again, they're focusing the partnership is solely focused on TNA and NXT. AJ Styles just makes a ton of sense, though. Let's see. Could we see TNA superstars at WrestleMania this year? No, I don't. I don't think so. Unless they're in like the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I don't really see that. Look, they're doing 2 nights, but they're probably only gonna do 5 matches per night. And if you're a WWE wrestler, would you want a TNA guy coming in and taking your spot? No, I don't think so. And they're not doing like tons of matches at WrestleMania every year. They're not. They might have 6 or 7 matches per night, but a lot of pay-per-views only have 5 matches, right? And they're doing 2 nights, so maybe let's say they get 12 matches. WWE's roster is huge. I don't think they're gonna, unless they do like a 12-man tag or something. I don't think they're gonna throw any TNA wrestlers in there. All right, let's see. Phenomenal Ace. Matt Hardy just mentioned on the Chris Van Vliet show that there's a good chance they'll wrestle in WWE this year. He's saying that they've done some content for WWE that's about to be released. I think the Hardys are going into the Hall of Fame this year. I think that's what that's about. And I absolutely could see the Hardys 100% representing TNA on WWE television, whether it be NXT, Raw, whatever. I think that we could see that. Okay, Javier Draven, my man, says the new Genesis promo has Cora Jade and Fraxium in it. I think those three def pull up to the show. Yeah, I think that we will see um, Masha Slamovich run through Rosemary in kind of a death match situation, and afterwards get challenged by Cora Jade. And I think they end up having the match at Vengeance Day. That makes sense to me. And Fraxium, whom I think should be Tag Team of the Year, by the way. For anybody that votes in the Wrestling Observer Tag Team of the Year, I think Fraxium has been the most consistently good tag team that's out there right now. I think they're the tag team of the year by far. Um, but Fraxium has openly talked about wanting to wrestle the Hardys. Hardys versus Fraxium at Vengeance Day makes a ton of sense to me. Okay. Lee says, how would this affect AEW finding talent now that both sides are working against AEW? Well, they AEW has their own partnerships in CMLL and in New Japan. And they have really good scouting department, that scouts the indies more heavily than I would say WWE and TNA does. WWE really just started their indie scouting thing. Like they really started to focus on that these last few months of the WWE ID program. I don't think this TNA partnership really affects AEW's scouting and talent development. Um, I think the biggest problem that AEW has with scouting and talent development is they're too hungry and too thirsty for former aging WWE stars, and they're putting them ahead of a lot of the young talent that they have scouted, that they've started to develop, but instead they have favored the older guys over them, which is a absolute fucking problem. Um, their fans are not happy. Like their hardcore fans are not happy with them right now because of this. So, but I don't think this really has a major effect on AEW one way or the other. AEW's decline in popularity has nothing to do with this TNA rise in momentum. However, TNA has an opportunity to capture some of the market share that AEW is now losing on. Um, the only effect that I could see this having on AEW is, again, like I said earlier in the show, Joe's point, that WWE could help TNA secure some of those international deals that WWE once had. Um, let's see, lots of good comments, lots of good questions. Um, let's see, hold on. Paul, get Julia versus Masha, please. That'd be a great match. TNA should be on Fox, the main channel. I would not hold out hope for that one. I think main Fox, wanted to be done with pro wrestling after their experience with SmackDown. They paid so much money and got so little return on investment that they're completely done. They do so well on Friday nights with live sports versus having the WWE on there. It's ridiculous. But I think FS1 would be like a realistic option. I really do. Let's see. Okay. Phenomenal Ace says, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of WWE working with AAA, either with Backlash being in Mexico this year, as announced by Bad Bunny, or with WWE working with AAA and TNA. I don't know how true that is. I would not look at Bad Bunny as being an official source. And in fact, people push back on the Bad Bunny story. Let's see. All right. I'm going to take a couple more. Then I got to actually get back to work. So let's see. Official Silver, TNA works with AAA and New Japan. TNA and New Japan no longer work together. They're completely done. That relationship is over. Should TNA be on Fox or Sci-Fi? I think TNA should be on any channel that has significantly more viewers and it is in way more homes than Access TV, if they're ever going to be a true success in the American market. So you want to say FS1? Don't say Big Fox. That's just shit's just not happening, guys. I would eliminate that from the conversation. FS1 could be a possibility. Sci-Fi, I think, is interesting. I do. I think Sci-Fi could be a very realistic option now that WWE is not going to actively sabotage, a promotion trying to get a TV deal. I think that becomes a very realistic option. Let's see. All right. And then lastly, Terrence Sullivan, TNA should be on the CW. I agree. I think that would be cool. I think that would be cool if TNA got on the CW. All right, guys. Thank you for this quick impromptu breaking news edition of Brace for Impact. Please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you're a subscriber to the channel, and then lay down a comment. I will be back on Saturday morning, so in 2 days, I will review tonight's Impact this Saturday morning on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/The Mike and JD Show. I will be there live. If you want to throw your chats at me, throw them at me. Let's do it. Let's fucking go. And then, of course, Sunday night, right here on this channel and on the Voices of Wrestling Network, the prodigal son has returned. JD, the one and only JD, by God, Oliva will be reviewing his first anything of TNA in 2 years come this Sunday night as we go live immediately after Genesis right here on this YouTube channel and, of course, on the Voices of Wrestling Network. And then, of course, it'll also be available ad-free on Patreon, patreon.com/The Mike and JD Show. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me in this time. And until next time, mahalo.
Brace for impact, it's coming fast. Hold your breath, but it won't last. The walls are closing in.